Hello, a very good evening to you and welcome to Friday's calendar.
Hello there. On the programme this evening,
Former Yorkshire and England cricket captain Michael Vaughan denies allegations of racism.
The man revered for his career in cricket has spent the day being questioned about words he says are unacceptable, and he maintains he never said them.
a grieving family's search for answers suffers a setback.
She was a real rare woman.
Michelle Exton from Dronfield died in Tenerife, but despite fresh pleas, a judge has refused to reopen the investigation.
The cost of living struggles of yesteryear.
We shall not be moved.
The remarkable footage found in the Yorkshire Film Archive.
I'll of course have your weekend weather forecast, as well as that Arctic blast that's heading our way from the north into next week.
And join me later in the programme when I'll be catching up with a footballer, pundit and campaigner who's receiving an MBE. Was that all right, Cammy?
That's unbelievable, Johnny!
Hello, a very good evening to you. The former Yorkshire and England cricket captain Michael Vaughan has told a disciplinary hearing that he didn't call a group of 4 Asian players "you lot" before a game in 2009.
The former player has been giving evidence for most of the day to an independent panel who are investigating racism at Yorkshire County Cricket Club. It's a hearing that has now lasted 3 days.
Well, our reporter Katie Oscroft has been at the hearing in London since the start and was there again to watch Michael Vaughan give evidence. Hello, Katie. What did he have to say today?
Well, Ian, bear in mind he is the only one of several former players and coaches who have been charged who agreed to come here to defend themselves. He left a short time ago, having spent the day intent on clearing his name, sat in front of the panel and repeatedly denying calling 4 players of Asian heritage "you lot." There's too many of you lot. We need to do something about it, is the allegation. Now, the ECB says those remarks were made soon after footage shows him shaking hands with all 4 players just before the start of a Yorkshire match 14 years ago. But the ECB's barrister Jane Mulcahy QC asked Michael Vaughan, when it comes down to the 22nd of June 2009, you don't remember what was said that day, do you? No, he replied. So it is not possible for you to categorically deny that you said those words. Michael Vaughan disagreed and said he would never say something to teammates which would put them in a bad state of mind before trying to win a game of cricket. He went on, "I couldn't have been more proud that we had 4 Asian players representing the club." Now, one of those 4 players was Azeem Rafiq, the man at the centre of this scandal about racism in Yorkshire cricket. He first spoke out in 2020. Now, Michael Vaughan says the comments he is supposed to have made were unacceptable, but he said over and over again that he never said them.
And Katie, what's happening to Yorkshire County Cricket Club in these proceedings?
Well, the club doesn't have to send anyone here simply because it's already admitted that it failed to address the systematic use of racist language and behaviour over a prolonged period. And that's something, though, that Michael Vaughan says in all his time at Yorkshire he never witnessed.
And what has the ECB, the England and Wales Cricket Board, had to say about bringing the charge against Michael Vaughan?
Well, the ECB say that Michael Vaughan was a role model. In fact, Azeem Rafiq says at the time these racist remarks are alleged to have been made, he was his hero. Now, in 2005, Michael Vaughan led his country to Ashes victory. That's that famous contest between England and Australia. It was so significant that the Queen, the late Queen Elizabeth, sent her congratulations. The then Prime Minister, Tony Blair, said it had lifted the summer. It was seen as a historic victory, and Michael Vaughan was the face of that success. Now, this is the background to what's at stake here, as he spent the day being questioned about a racist remark he categorically says he didn't make.
Katie Oscroft live in London. Thank you.
Let's get some other news from around the region now. A court has heard that a man accused of murdering his niece in Bradford had asked police what the sentence was for someone in his position. Sumaya Begum's body was found wrapped in a rug on an industrial estate 11 days after she went missing in July last year. Her uncle, Mohammed Tarous Khan, is currently on trial for her murder. He denies killing Miss Begum but has admitted perverting the course of justice by disposing of her body and trying to burn her mobile phone. The trial continues.
Police have named the man who was stabbed to death in Leeds yesterday afternoon as 29-year-old Peter Wass from Roundhay.
Stop and search powers for the police in the Chapeltown area have been temporarily enhanced as their investigation continues. Fraser Maud is at the scene for us now. Good evening, Fraser. What's happening there just at the moment?
Yeah, good evening. The area around Hamilton Place, Hamilton Avenue remains cordoned off as it has been since yesterday afternoon. Today we saw scene of crime officers here. We saw West Yorkshire Police carrying out fingertip searches, searching drains, searching bins, looking for clues, potentially looking for the murder weapon that was used in this incident as they continue their investigation. It is a murder investigation. It has been since the death of Peter Wass yesterday. It was around 2:39 yesterday afternoon when the attack happened. The ambulance service were called. Members of the public were trying to take Mr. Wass to hospital in their own vehicle. The paramedics met that vehicle, transferred Mr. Wass into the ambulance, took him to hospital, but sadly he was pronounced dead at hospital at around 3:20 yesterday afternoon.
And what's been the reaction locally, Fraser?
Yeah, the Chapeltown area is an area that in the past had a problem with violent crime, not so much so in recent years. So this has come as a real shock to the people who live in this area. Today I've been speaking to West Yorkshire's Deputy Mayor for Police and Crime and to the local councillor here, who's also a community safety champion for this part of Leeds. This is what they told me.
This could be any street, any part of West Yorkshire, any part of the UK, because we know that street violence is something that is more and more common.
It's not just a policing job, it is a multi-agency approach. We need schools, we need people in the communities, all sorts of different agencies to work together to raise awareness, but also to discourage people from using any violent weapons in any circumstances.
Well, recent anti-knife crime initiatives in West Yorkshire do seem to have been having some form of impact. Year on year, in the past 12 months, around 130 fewer stabbings reported in West Yorkshire. Here in Leeds, over the same period, the number of violent crimes reduced by about 7.5%. But one death is too many, say campaigners, and the police are saying that they want anyone with any information who might be able to bring them to the killers of Peter Wass, to bring that information to them as soon as possible.
Fraser Maud live in Leeds for us tonight. Thank you very much.
Next, the daughter of a woman from Dronfield who was killed in a hit-and-run incident in Tenerife says she's frustrated and upset at a judge's decision not to investigate her mother's death.
Michelle Exton was killed in December and within 3 weeks the case was stayed by a Spanish court. That means that the police can't actively investigate. A judge has now denied the family's request for it to be reopened.
It comes just as Michelle's daughter Sophia was given fresh hope after an interview she gave to this programme. Adam Fowler reports.
It was only a few hours after this photo was taken of Michelle Exton on the left and her mum Anne on the right that both women were hit by a white van in southern Tenerife. Michelle died days later, and last week her daughter Sophia told us why it's so important that the investigation into her death continues.
It would mean that there's some justice to him losing freedom because she's lost all of hers, so that's what should happen.
But a judge has now dismissed Sophia's attempt to reopen the investigation. She says she's frustrated and upset and plans to appeal.
It is a setback. It's not unexpected. What we will now do is appeal that decision. We therefore expect our first instance appeal to be dismissed, and then we'll file a further appeal to the High Court of Appeal in Tenerife.
With Sophia's permission, we shared our interview with Spanish broadcaster Televisión Canaria.
It should actually be behind bars.
After broadcast in Tenerife, new leads have come forward, but police can't investigate them.
We've had people come forward with stories and with, wanting to help as much as they can. So that's brought a few fresh bits to us, but we can't do anything with them as yet.
It would take substantial new evidence for the investigation to be reopened, but Sophia says there was plenty of evidence that wasn't properly investigated in the first place. A wing mirror was left at the scene. Witnesses saw the driver stop and mutter in Spanish before driving off, but no EFIT was ever put out.
I spoke to a professional in the UK that does road traffic accidents, and they said over here you close naturally the road for up to 12 hours and do all of the forensic side of things, whereas over there that didn't seem to be done. Witness statements, that kind of thing, all need following up on.
Despite the setbacks, Sophia is determined to get justice for her mum.
She deserves this more than well, I'm going to say more than anyone because she's my mum, but she deserves it more than most because she was a real rare woman. That's what I'd say.
Sophia Exton ending that report by Adam Fowler. Now, you're watching Friday Night's Calendar, and still to come, we're in Bradford for tea and cake with Cammy.
And I'll have more on the cold spell heading our way for next week, and of course your weekend weather forecast a little later on.
Now, when you switch your telly on to tune into Calendar, well, thanks for doing that, by the way, do you find yourself reaching for the remote control to turn up the volume?
Perhaps you don't even notice that you're doing it, as hearing loss can develop gradually, and it often goes unnoticed until it gets really bad. It's thought around nearly 1 million people have problems with their hearing in Yorkshire alone.
While most of us have regular checkups at the dentist and optician, very few think to have their hearing tested. Well, our reporter Lucy Kapazi, who herself wears hearing aids, has this special report on World Hearing Day.
Changing trends in jewellery to the fascinating history of a little-known subject, hearing aids. And at this Mayfair clinic, you can see historic relics like the chased silver ear trumpet of the 19th century and disguising them.
The first hearing aids were rather cumbersome, and often more thought went into hiding them than into whether they actually worked. Thankfully, things have changed somewhat since then. Now, if you have hearing loss, you can expect a device similar to this one on the NHS for free. There are lots of others on the market too, like this one for instance, but you'd have to pay for them and they can be expensive. Despite the modern hearing aids now on offer, the Royal National Institute for Deaf People says high numbers of us are still putting our health at risk by not looking after our ears. In Yorkshire, only 6% of people questioned who didn't already have a hearing loss diagnosis had their hearing checked in the last 12 months. That's compared to 46% who said they'd had an eye test and 56% a dental checkup. Do you ever go and get your hearing checked?
Not yet, no.
How about the opticians or dentists? Do you do that?
I do that regularly, yes, yeah, both of them.
What's the difference between those and getting your hearing checked?
Oh, that's a good question.
I go to the optician and dentist, but I actually have never had my hearing checked.
I met up with deaf comedian, actor and author Samantha Baines. She's just written the book she says she couldn't find when she was first told she'd need to wear a hearing aid. Now, I know you love your hearing aid, as I love mine, but that wasn't always the way, was it?
No, it was definitely a journey to love it. And actually, the book has a very long title, which is Living with Hearing Loss and Deafness, but also it's a guide to loving it and owning it, because I do feel like I own it and love it now.
I want the gas, though, proper gas, off a machine. Someone told me if you have it at home, they give you gas through the cooker, and I think that's dangerous.
You know, I was doing period dramas at the time, like The Crown and Call the Midwife, and actually, once I've started opening up about my deafness and the fact I wear a hearing aid and having those conversations with people I was working with already, it's been a good reaction, and people have been keen to put accessibility options in place so that I can still do what I love to do. You know, there's this whole wave of colourful hearing aids, there's hearing aid jewellery, I'm wearing some today, and it also makes it, you know, feel like you and adds to your style. And instead of it just being a medical device, it's now something that you can kind of show off and add a bit of your personality.
Approximately 1 woman in 10 doesn't...
So, from using jewellery to conceal hearing aids to now wearing it to show them off, we've come a long way. Now, deaf charities hope changing attitudes will mean more of us prioritise the health of our ears. Lucy Capassi, ITV News.
It's good to hear that it's getting so much easier.
I know, it's a bit like this, isn't it? We wear these little earpieces, don't we? So we can hear Donna, the director, shouting at us when we look at the wrong camera.
Yes, hopefully you can't hear that, though. Now, a new film which shows how people in Yorkshire lived through cost of living crises in the 60s, 70s and 80s highlights the distinct parallels with issues today.
Well, the Yorkshire Film Archive pulled more than 200 source films to create the piece, which it hopes will force people to learn more lessons from the past. Amelia Beckett has been taking a look.
Hidden in the depths of the Yorkshire Film Archive lie reels and reels of the first draft of history. But behind the silver sheen lies a past which mirrors the present.
Families come to our office from all over Leeds. They come mainly seeking the material aid that we have to give them here. We give families enough food.
These films show life in 60s, 70s and 80s Yorkshire. When parents skipped meals to feed their children, there were protests over rising energy prices and queues at food banks were stacking up.
As we were looking at all these film clips, mainly from our regional news and programming, Yorkshire Television, Tyne Tees Television, those sort of things, we were uncovering all these clips that were resonating with what we're seeing in the news cycle today. And then we were like, how can we tell this wider story about how people 50 years ago were going through the same thing that we're going through today?
How? Well, by going through more than 200 source films gathered across Yorkshire and the North East and compiling a 16-minute window into the past.
You'd like to think we've learnt from the past and things might have changed, but sadly it hasn't. And a lot of the footage, it's important to say, was made when there was different political colours, you know, Labour and Conservatives in power, and it keeps coming round and round, which is a real pity that, you know, the society hasn't sort of dealt with these issues.
Every day she goes across to her local youth centre to scour the job ads in the local papers. Then it's down to the job centre to see if there's anything new there.
Sometimes I go for an interview, a few days later you get a letter through the post and say, we're sorry, but the vacancy has been filled.
The film was commissioned by York St John University as part of a project exploring cinema's role in social justice.
The question we really wanted to ask first was, what kind of social or political change can film help us affect? We know that film has the power to reach really significant numbers of audiences, so we wanted to ask how we can address social issues and address the contemporary political terrain.
It was initially intended just for students, but has proved so popular, it's now available online for free. And while it certainly evokes a sense of déjà vu, the hope is it may help to fuel a different future. Amelia Beckett, ITV News.
Right, time for the weather now. Kerry is here. It's the end of the week, Kerry.
Yay, we got to Friday.
Colder, isn't it?
I know. This week, quite boring weather, quiet and cloudy. Next week, cold and very busy for me, I suspect,
Yes.
as next week wears on. Disappointingly cloudy for most of this week. I've been going on about trying to give you a little bit of sunshine, but I've got some positives over the next few days. The weekend is nothing too disruptive. Many places tomorrow will be dry. Some sunshine maybe on Sunday. Finally, yay. But actually, as we head into next week, a colder, clearer air mass. So we've been talking about the risk of some snow and frost, but actually we should get some decent sunny spells and some big skyscrapes or skyscapes. So please bring them in. Weather photos at itv.com. So what have we got this cold spell heading towards us next week? It's the coldest spell this year, especially as we're going into the first or second week of spring, actually. The return to overnight frost, so our temperatures will be below zero by day and by night. There's also a cold weather alert from the Met Office and Public Health. That's issued basically for emergency responders and mainly due for or looking at the elderly and the vulnerable, but look after your neighbours. Cold weather alert. Isolated wintry showers at first as we head into Monday, and more widespread snow risk as we head into Tuesday. And I say this, and it's looking ahead a good 4 days, but there is now a be aware, yellow be aware warning for the risk of some snow showers, which just clipped into Whitby on Monday, but comes a little bit further south and westwards as we head into Tuesday. So very cold is the weather word, but maybe some frequent showers at times in the northeast of our region and the further south and west at this stage. Yes, the risk of some snow showers, but possibly easing on and off. So, of course, I'll be telling you a little bit more detail after the weekend, but yeah, it's going to feel chilly for sure.
OK, well, we'll listen out for that next week.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
Thanks very much indeed. Now, he's been a footballer, a manager, a campaigner and unbelievable TV personality for decades. And now Cammy, Chris Kamara, is about to formally receive an MBE.
Yeah, it's great news. The former Leeds, Sheffield United and Bradford City player, who's now a pundit, was recognised in the New Year's Honours list for services to football, anti-racism and charity.
Well, today, ahead of the ceremony in Windsor next week, he was given a special reception and some cake too from the Lord Mayor of Bradford. And while he was there, he spoke to our reporter, Jonathan Brown.
Yes, I'm joined by the man himself, Chris Kamara, MBE. So how does that sound, Cammy?
MBE, you're the first person to put that on the end of my name.
So your MBE is for services to football, anti-racism and charity. What's it like to get this recognition nationally and also here in Bradford?
Oh, well, it's incredible, really. I never thought that I'd end up in this situation where, you know, you get letters after your name. So the letters I was thinking about weren't MBE. Coming to Bradford today, you know, I will never ever forget taking 30,000 Bradfordians to Wembley, but that started by coursing football. The rest of my career has been amazing, you know, to work in TV for 24 years after that, you know, they haven't found me out yet.
And you're still a very busy man. I saw recently you were down at Downing Street handing in a petition in memory of your late mother. Tell me a bit about that.
Well, I've been a patron for Marie Curie for a long time now, but the terminal illness one is something, you know, that shouldn't be happening. You know, if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, then you should get the state pension that you paid into. Hopefully, you know, the government can see a way to letting that come through.
And another thing that you've been speaking about quite a lot recently is the apraxia of speech that you've been diagnosed with and the impact that's had on your life. What's it been like opening up about that and how are you at the moment?
Today's a good day, you know, not back to the old self as people at home can probably see, but I'm a lot better off than loads and loads of people.
And I know you've got, well, a busy few days coming up. You're picking up your suit later because you're going down to Windsor next week to collect that MBE. Are you looking forward to that occasion with your family?
Oh, I am, yeah. Now that, you know, it's sunk in and my kids are proud of me, my family is proud, so I'm going to take it in the spirit that it's meant to be.
I hope you really enjoy it. Thanks very much for your time. Chris Kamara, MBE.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Johnny. So well deserved. What
Absolutely.
a lovely man.
And another first for calendar there, putting the MBE on the name strap there for the very first time, which was lovely.
There you go. Absolutely. Congratulations, of course, to Cammy. Kerry's got the full weekend weather forecast. Here she is.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again. So the weekend is almost upon us, and yes, it's turning gradually colder from the north over the next couple of days. Quite cloudy as we head into the first part of the weekend on Saturday, but mostly dry, just a few coastal showers. Further showers developing on Sunday into the afternoon, but with some sunshine, and then behind that, the colder air really starts to dig in. So we look to the north for that airflow, an Arctic air mass coming across all parts of the UK by the time we reach Tuesday. Anything wet at this stage, turning wintry. In the meantime, for this evening and overnight tonight, under the clearer skies, most likely over the Pennines and the Dales, there will be a frost. Elsewhere, just above freezing with a little bit more cloud around and a tiny bit of a breeze from a northerly direction, but chilly enough as we head into the weekend. And there is Saturday sun times 6:48 and 5:49. So as we head into tomorrow, disappointingly cloudy, I think, across most parts of the region for much of the day. The clearer skies where we get the frost will be filled in into the afternoon, and then we start to see a few showers filtering into the east. But for most of us, dry, occasional breaks maybe to parts of North Yorkshire, rather cloudy, temperatures around average, and the winds, at least for now, fairly light. As we head into the second half of the weekend, a cloudy start on Sunday, then a mixture of sunshine and showers for the afternoon, then a bit of a wind chill starting to develop, and then that northerly really kicks in as we head into the coming few days. So the risk of a few showers on Monday, most likely out towards the coast. Could be some snow cover certainly over the North York moors, maybe a little bit more widespread from Tuesday onwards, and definitely those temperatures taking a bit of a tumble.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
So there you go, not too bad the weekend and some positives for next week.
I'm glad it's going to hold off at the weekend.
I know, I'm looking forward to your snow reports next week.
Yeah,
I think.
Bring in the woolly hats.
That's all from the calendar for another week. Join us again on Monday at 6. For now, though, have a great weekend.
Have a lovely weekend and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Take care.